Hello and a warm welcome back. Today on the bench is the bobbin that I made in previously in the previous video, and this is to replace a transformer in a Tektronix 585 valve oscilloscope. It will look something like this hopefully when finished. So after sticking all the bits together and a bit more fabrication, filing and mucking about, I managed to get it so that the laminations, hopefully you can see this, the laminations when they are in, just turn that side to side, have no gaps. It sticks in a few places, tiny bit. It's a bit hard to do this, yeah, but yeah, I spent a good few hours with a file just taking a little bit off. You've got a little bit of a gap here, but nothing that a little bit of filing here won't sort out. However, there's still a hell of a lot of work to do yet. We now have to wind it to the best of our abilities by hand, and to do that I will use this. So that is my winding machine in inverted commas. I did used to have a nuts and bolts stepper motor driven transformer. However, the software was really clunky and I'm no good at software to be able to reprogram it, and it didn't do a very good job anyway, and struggled on some of the heavier gauge wire that I use. I'll just pop in a video of the previous winding machine I used and the Mark 1 attempt, as it were, to wind this transformer now. Today on the bench is a big transformer that I'm trying to rewind, but I've come to the conclusion that I'm onto a hiding to nothing, and it's so much fucking scrap. So as you can see, it's a relatively simple bit of kit. However, I just repurposed some of the parts off the old stepper motor driven winding machine. The engineering was good, namely these oh damn it, I can't remember what the hell they're called, these big blinking bearing mounts, and it's just hand wound. And to count the turns, what I've got is a Hall magnet here. This is a Hall sensor, and that goes basically in series with this counter here, and by feeding 10 volts DC into that it will count. However, this counter has no zero button. I can't zero it out without just going round and round and round quite a lot. So to wind a transformer, we just bung loads of turns round this bobbin, yeah, wind around and round, away we go. Everything's cushy. It don't work like that. When you wind a transformer, when you've actually wound a few, you find what happens is this isn't all screwed down, so if this moves a bit, you know, so we want to get those turns of wire going along here really flat and lovely, so that they're parallel to the bobbin. If I can find the old one, I'll just try and move that out of the way. Find the old one. As you can see, I mean, I know I've cut this about a bit, but there's no bulge. So what you find when you're hand winding or any winding transformers, you get this bulge in the middle. The clip that I played earlier on, you will see that on the first Mark 1 transformer that I wound. I have tried like using clamps and bits of wood to like compress that, to try and get rid of that bulge. Also I wind it as tight as possible. The other thing you have to contend with, and this is after speaking to a friend of mine in Australia who's wound loads of transformers Joe, the one who wound those output transformers for some of the 807 amps. So this is a bobbin of wire, and as you can see, as I pull that off, it obviously wants to sort of settle into a circular shape. As you can see, I've got an old retort stand set a bit high, and then I'll show what that is all in aid of, is to try and break the grain, or at least just make the wire, the copper wire, more malleable, softer, so that it goes on the core better, lays better. I'm not ready to wind, but I'm just trying to show you what the crack is. It's all got to be clamped down and everything. So the path of the copper wire comes off the bobbin, goes over this, which is essentially an 8-inch nail with a bit of copper pipe, goes under this wooden roller here, and then under this pipe here, and then my hand will be guiding the wire onto the bobbin. I've found though that in practice I tend to pull the wire away from that and don't use this so much, and then just use my hand with a glove, because I mean this is thick bloody stuff, to try and also put a bit of I don't know, what's the word, make it more malleable, you know, make it straighter, make it lie better. To also keep a bit of tension on the bobbin is just sort of clamped in place just by a few old plumbing fittings, spacers, plastic spacers, onto this what do you call it, what the fucking hell is it, spindle. And then way back, what I did to put a bit of a brake on that spindle was, out of an old computer monitor, use the back mounting plate to make this sort of very simple brake. It's just a piece of pear wood with a screw thread spring, blah blah blah, and that, I get it set right, adds a bit of braking on there and provide a bit of back tension. Oh, before I go any further, this is a lot of the copper wire that came off the Mark 1 transformer. Some of it is essentially scrap, because I use quite a lot of varnish on it, and so it's a nightmare to get off. So yeah, that's going down the scrap yard. As I said, I wasted about 50 quid worth of copper. But you find that when you start winding transformers, you will have fuck ups, you will waste hours and hours of work. It's a consequence of learning on the job, as it were. There is no amount of watching videos, reading books or whatever that will guide you flawlessly through the process. It's a complex process using hand-eye and all the rest of it, or if you use a Arduino or other digital sort of controlled machine, it still involves a lot of head work and a lot of experience. And like a lot of things in life, you only get that experience by cocking up, fucking up and making mistakes. So yesterday I spent the last bit of the day making sure everything was really well screwed down. Last time I used this device, I used clamps to screw everything and bolt everything down, as it were. This time I've used screws to screw this retort down to there, and then I've used these big bolts, big screws should I say, that came out of my daughter's bunk bed to screw this down tight to the bench. So I'm all ready to start winding. I've been trying to take the process a lot more slower, as you saw from the clip earlier on, where I made the first one, the bobbin was absolutely rubbish, and yeah, it was just like not a good thing. So I'm trying to take me time, get everything right. I did have one scare though. Eventually the lamination goes through there, and then eventually this housing will go on there, something like that. I had a scare though yesterday because I thought that I'd have very little room for the termination of the windings to come out. However, I got the inclination of this bit wrong, so as you can see it's still a bit tight, but we've got what there, about 1/4 of an inch, 7mm, 8mm for the terminations to come out. The original used sleeving, coloured sleeving, to identify all the windings, and then they were then terminated on this plate here. I've been cleaning all this up, still a bit of work to do, and unfortunately in a few places I've broke off some of the lugs or whatever you call them. What I should do though this time is use, somebody kindly gave me all this heat shrinking tubing, and so I'll just use that to insulate and to protect the end of the windings going through the bobbin. But I'm going to have to make sure that I keep and label each one really accurately. I'll cut it there, make these videos a little bit shorter, try to put them out in more regular intervals. Thank you all for watching. Take care of yourselves. Ta-ra for now.